Hello everyone and welcome to game 1 in a series between Swing versus bbaboom Prime here on Tall Dream Altar. bbaboom Prime spawning as the pink Zerg player over here on the bottom right hand side of the map. Meanwhile, Swing spawning here on the bottom left hand side at what I'll call the 7 o'clock position on Tall Dream Altar. This is going to be Zerg versus Zerg, and yes, it is a mirror match, and yes, I do want to cast mirror matches occasionally, as I want to educate myself and also educate all you guys out there as well. It may not be the most entertaining matches, mirror matches, always seeing the same units, but as long as the both players do go and do execute different strategies, it generally works out well. So we see Swing over here on the bottom left hand side, both sides so far pretty much building their overlords and drones at the same time, and we'll see how these players will open. Now, normally there are 2 or 3 very common openings for Zerg in this mirror match. The mirror match really tends to lend itself toward a little bit more aggressive play. Expanding early on is generally very dangerous unless you're able to execute the absolute perfect defense with a lot of spine crawlers. The issue, though, is that Zerglings also get a speed bonus on your opponent's creep. So, spine crawlers need creep in order to root themselves, and because of that, Zerglings often are able to run by so quickly that the spine crawlers are not able to get that much defense or get that much damage going, as opposed to, say, a bunker or a photon cannon from the Protoss and from the Terran. Now, taking a look over here, interestingly enough, Swing is opening up with the fast hatchery. Meanwhile, we see an extractor pool coming in from bbaboom Prime. It looks like he will be able to get that metabolic boost. And this is 2 very different styles of how to play Zerg. Now, the key thing to note will be whether or not bbaboom Prime stops harvesting gas after he gets up to 100, or if he continues to harvest. If he continues to harvest, that means that he is trying to end the game early and quickly, perhaps with roaches or banelings. If he stops harvesting, then it looks like he's going to be expanding, and it looks like as though he's going to definitely be trying to train in some banelings or some roaches in this matchup. In this matchup, I would normally guess that it would be banelings, as roaches are very slow during the early portion of the game, while banelings are a little bit faster, but more importantly, you can run a Zergling into midfield and then morph it into play. As long as one baneling takes out 3 Zerglings, it is a decent trade, but normally you want one baneling to take out 4 Zerglings, and that really helps out in the long run, as you got to remember every 2 Zerglings does also equal 1 larva, while 1 baneling equals a half a larva. Very important key stat to remember. As well as early on in the game, you really are more larva limited and more than anything else if there are a lot of units. Zerg is now still running around over here. It looks as though Swing is getting up a queen, getting up 2 queens, so it's going to get 2 queens very quickly, making sure, and it looks as though, yes, he is going to be going for a spine crawler. So Swing, perhaps knowing that something is up, sees that there is not a hatchery over here, knows that there's going to be a lot of early engagement, and Swing now setting up 2 spine crawlers in position, making sure to set them up in just a way so that the Zerglings have to run through in order to deal any serious damage. Now, Zerglings are hiding off over here. Banelings are in the production. You can see currently 6 Banelings will be coming in. Zerglings going to try to run up that ramp, but Swing has an overlord here. Queen's going to get in some easy slashes, but now the Banelings are perhaps going to try to run up the ramp, and the Banelings also get movement speed on creep, so this is going to become very difficult, as the Zerglings now tying up some of those units there. The Banelings able to run by before the Queen or that Spine Crawler is done. One does detonate, and the Banelings are now trying to find their target, able to deal a lot, and oh, very lucky for Swing, as Swing is able to retreat with a large number of those drones, and now let's try to start mining from a new hatchery instead. The Queens are now coming in to engage and finish off some of these Zerglings. It looks like those Spine Crawlers may be able to finish them off here. Zerglings now trying to run in. Spine Crawler going to perhaps get off 1 or perhaps even 2 more kills. Yes, 2 kills there, and it looks like that has been fended off. Swing, however, sees that there are more Zerglings, and he knows that he needs to continue this production. This one Spine Crawler did take a very hard hit, though, so this is going to be very difficult, as the Zerglings now trying to run back in. Drones now being transferred back over to the main base, making sure that The drones are going to be down over or a little bit further away. The spine crawlers should be able to perhaps detonate some of those banelings. They need to go after those banelings. In particular, Zergling's able to run by. This is not good. There's still a lot of banelings here. Another baneling does get popped, and there's only, what, four more banelings left. Will it be enough? And 3 banelings are going to be able to find into that group and simply take them down. And that was a huge hit. But now we see Zerglings now funneling into the main base of bbaboom Prime as well. So Zerglings are now starting to destroy back over here. So this is now going to become a drone race as bbaboom Prime losing a lot of his drones. All of these Zerglings ran down to the south and able to intercept. And bbaboom Prime now in trouble as well. You can see back over here Swing also in a little bit of trouble. And it looks like no one has any drones. No drones on either side. Swing does have 2 queens, though, and those 2 queens may be enough to fend off the attack. We now see a large number of Zerglings, and with no drones, this may actually become a draw. I don't know who's going to be able to come out ahead. There is, what, a Zerglings over here, and what is going to be happening... what is going to be happening here as the Zerglings are now trying to take down this hatchery. There are 2 queens here. Queen's now able to get off a couple quick hits. There is a spine crawler off over here. The queens are perhaps going to try to make their way down, run down, and now this is not looking good. Who's going to be able to deal more damage? You can see 600 versus 400, but I believe Swing does have the benefit of those additional queens, and those spine crawlers I'm going to be able to poke apart a little bit further as well. Zerglings, broodlings now trying to run away. And I think bbaboom is in trouble. Now, these Zerglings have to be very careful. They cannot try to engage against Swings. Swing does have a slight advantage in terms of Zergling count, but I believe all Swing needs to do is now run home with those Zerglings. And if he's able to run home with those Zerglings, he's able to perhaps transfuse them and get back up to full health and re-engage. Queens are now in midfield. This is going to be huge. Swing able to move out with Queens in midfield. Overlords are now going to be forced to retreat. Those 2 Queens with 1 base armor. That is going to be huge as they also have a little bit of range even in that claw attack. Perhaps going to start shooting down some overlords. No, it does not look like it. Yes, it does. And now continuing to make their way over. Swing should probably just start transfusing some of those Zerglings just to be a little bit cute about it, as those queens now making the very slow trek across the map. Now, back over here, this is going to be a problem. bbaboom Prime no longer having any creep, so the spawning pool and the baneling's nest are going to start to bleed. Zerglings are now trying to engage. bbaboom Prime, I believe, is going to be forced to say GG in a moment as the Zerglings, who came out ahead there. It looks as though 10 Zerglings versus 12, but there are still 2 queens that are not accounted for in this army. Those Zerglings do not want to try to engage there. Transfusions, plenty of energy on both of these queens. They will be able to transfuse each other, and that is going to be huge. Zerglings now trying to push off over here, getting in a little bit more damage. And we'll see what's going to happen here. The spawning pool down to 800 hit points. Queens now continuing to push their way in. Is it going to be enough? bbaboom Prime does have an extractor down, so that extractor is the only building that is not going to bleed, as the queens are now trying to engage. This may be a problem, though, because the instant that the spawning pool goes down, broodlings will come out, and the queens are now trying to engage as well. Zerglings, what is going to be happening here? He cannot perhaps go after the extractor. The extractor would be the smarter choice. The queen, does get a nice transfusion, and I think Swing, if he's very smart, if he just goes after the extractor, he will win this game. As these buildings, you can see now bbaboom Prime attempting to take down his own spawning pool in order to get broodlings in this engagement. So 1 spawning pool, broodlings are now trying to make their way over. Is it going to be enough to try to engage, trying to swarm the broodlings, maybe able to take down one of the queens? Yes, 1 transfusion does come in time. This 1 building, and there's the GG. Wow, a crazy last-ditch effort by bbaboom Prime, destroying his own spawning pool in order to get broodlings to try to take down the queens. That was very interesting. I also thought Swing very smart, playing with a very clear head, knowing that if he takes down the extractor, then at the very least, the extractor, without the extractor in play, the other 2 buildings would bleed. And then what Swing could do is Swing could easily put this 1 spine crawler in between these 2 buildings here, and then also move another spine crawler there. And there is no way that those Zerglings would be able to finish off all of this hatchery, especially with the spine crawlers with limited surface area. And then the Baneling Nest would eventually just bleed to death. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. A great matchup here. Game 1 on Tall Dream Altar. Stay tuned for Game 2.